Very pleased to be joined by Northwestern head coach Pat Fitzgerald. Coach, you're still early in camp, so I know it's tough to assess, but how would you characterize where your team is right now?
Well, spirits are high. You guys saw that today. I think the guys are in a good place mentally. I think morale's high. And you're right. We are early on, starting to see some of the new faces, get into the grind, and this week will tell us a lot about them.
I think it's interesting when you come to a camp each year, you say, well, what are the questions? What are the things we don't know about? And one of the ones that really jumps out to me is the departure of Mike Hankwitz, who, of course, retired after a brilliant career. You have a new defensive coordinator in Jim O'Neill. How has that transition gone?
I think from the minute Jimmy got here, it was about making this our defense, not his defense. And that's been the mindset that he's kind of approached everything with our players and the staff. So it's going to be a work in progress, as always in year one. But I think the collaboration and the commitment to being in this together is something that I've really been proud of the way that group is worked. And, like today, seeing new things still, working through how are we going to handle this, how are we going to handle that. It's been great, but so far so good, but a lot of work to go before the Spartans.
What differences have you seen in his approach versus Hank's approach? What might be different about this defense?
Well, maybe a little difference between maybe, Rock of the 70s and maybe Rock of the 90s in the defensive room, a little bit different generation. But Jim was around quite a bit. He GA'd here for us, before Hank got here, but then would come and we'd clinic with him, on numerous occasions. So I think we'll be more similar than different, maybe when you watch us from afar. But, just personalities are different. The way we go about things are a little bit different. But, Hank's blueprint will be written all over this defense as long as I'm the head football coach.
You've won the West 2 of the last 3 years. In both of those years, you got good quarterback play. The year you did not win it, you finished last, and you got really poor quarterback play. So it's no secret that position is vitally important to every program, but it's been vitally important to your program. Give us a sense of where you are at that position.
Well, I think we're close to being, honing it down to a couple, 3 guys. We've been rolling the whole group through and really trying to get an understanding of what our young players can do, while having the competition to be our starter, really be the focus. But Hunter and Andrew are, our 2 oldest guys in the offense and have been here the longest. And then Ryan comes in, I think with a really great first year in the SEC, maybe not necessarily from a record standpoint, but from an experience standpoint when he was down in South Carolina. So, I think those 3 guys are going to be the 3 finalists as we get closer and closer. But, we'll see as camp goes on. We got a number of weeks before we get into game week to get prepared for the Spartans. But the whole group's working diligently, and Mike Bajakian's doing a great job with them.
You and I have talked a lot about this through the years, but the need to be explosive. You only had 2 plays of 40 yards or longer last year. How do you become more explosive offensively?
Yeah, 12-man operation, right? It starts with us as coaches, putting our guys in the best matchups, in the best position to go be successful. Our ability then to break tackles and not be afraid to have nickels turn into dimes, quarters, and dollars, right? There's, you look back, it's not always the deep throws. It's not always the ball down the field. It's one guy making somebody miss. It's a strain, a finish of getting an extra block. It's running through a tackle. And then, obviously the explosive play is getting the ball down the field. So I think it's a combination of those things. And it's definitely things that we're stressing through camp.
It's interesting that, once again, we talked about quarterback, and you have a transfer there as high profile. You've had a couple come in. You've used the portal somewhat judiciously.
Yeah.
You don't bring in a ton of guys. I know you've said the idea is to bring in players who you think can get significant playing time. Who are some of those new faces who've come in who you think might make an impact?
Well, Pooler and Miser on the defensive line have been impressive. I've been really, starting from day one when they showed up here in the summer, you could tell they're veteran defensive linemen that, have been through battles and are really coachable guys. I think Steph is explosive at wide receiver. It's been really impressive to see the job that he's done early. And then same thing with Andrew in the backfield. Drew, you look at his production in the MAC, that's been really impressive to see what he's done. So that's a couple of guys, but the whole group has been awesome. We are very we're very selective. We're going to make sure that young man that we bring in the program would be somebody we would have recruited out of high school, academically, the right fit to our locker room, and someone who's going to come compete to start. We're not rebuilding a program. We're just trying to plug and play. And those guys, I give them great credit, and I give a ton of credit, to our guys in our locker room, the way they've welcomed every transfer we've ever taken into the program. That brotherhood that we have, I think, is something that's not unique to us, but something that's one of our strengths. And those guys have been great so far.
Talk about transitions. You have a new athletic director in Derek Gragg. How has that transition gone?
Yeah, it's been great to have Dr. G on board. We were there for a few months, a little bit in transition. Now to have our leader, Derek's been great. I had an unbelievable team meeting that he addressed the guys for about a half hour. And, I think the guys were really excited to hear what he said, how he said it, and the way he approached his support. Someone that played college football, a guy who's had the experiences of our guys in the locker room. So, excited to get to work with him and build our relationship. I told him my job is to make him be the best director of athletics in the country. I'll stand on what it's happening to Mark Murphy and Jim Phillips. I think we've done a pretty good job.
What's at the top of your priority list from an athletic director?
Well, just someone that, number one, looks at the student-athlete experience and looks at it holistically, to make the necessary improvements, be a great listener, and, be there to support them in everything from their academic pursuits to what they're interested in, how they want to be impactful in our community socially. And then, from an athletic standpoint, give them all the necessary tools they need to be successful while they're here and prepare them for an opportunity to be, all league and then move on to be an NFL player. So, like I said, he's been a part of it. He knows what it looks like and, excited to get to work with him.
You open with conference play against Michigan State, a team that beat you in the regular season last year, your only regular season loss. How much of a motivator has that been for your team?
Yeah, they sure did. They sure did beat us. I mean, they got after us pretty good. And it's a credit to Coach Tucker and his staff and their players. I mean, I thought they played as clean of a game or one of their more clean games that they played all year last year and got after us physically, took the ball away from us, and then made some explosive plays that we didn't really give up against anybody else. And they pretty much dominated the line of scrimmage. So I would say that our focus is on us. I mean, it's not lost in how well they played against us a year ago. And like I said, after that game, the credit goes to them in the way that they played.
Pat Fitzgerald, always a pleasure. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Dave. Go Cats.
Meanwhile, the quarterback competition at Northwestern is, as always, tightly guarded by Pat Fitzgerald, though it's easy to hear outside speculation, which leans towards South Carolina transfer Ryan Hilinski being named starter. Hunter Johnson and Andrew Marty are the other two QBs competing to be the man running Mike Bajakian's offense.
Andrew Marty and Hunter Johnson, both guys got playing experience in the 2019 season. Obviously, with Peyton Ramsey coming in and playing last year, they got a chance to get a year to really learn the system and watch it operate from a second-hand perspective, which I think was invaluable for both those guys. Then we had the transfer from South Carolina and Ryan Hilinski, and he transferred midway through spring ball, and he did a great job and was able from day one on to take reps. And that's a testament to the work that he did in the offseason and the time leading up to his arrival to learn what he could learn. And these guys all have their strengths and weaknesses. I wouldn't say there's a vast difference between their style of play, and that's a good thing.
Pleased to be joined by the outstanding running back, Cam Porter. Watched a little bit of practice today. You guys were getting after it. What are your initial thoughts on your performance there?
Yeah, it was a great practice overall. Offense started off fast. I think we finished really strong. So, as long as we just keep doing that and keep improving, I think we're going to really be good this year.
You've got a quarterback battle going on here in training camp. What do each of those guys bring to the table?
It's definitely going to be exciting. It's a quarterback battle this year. Hunter definitely has a big arm, can make all the throws. Ryan can make all the throws too, and a smart quarterback. And then Marty, obviously, he's been here a long time and he has great leadership. So it's definitely going to be interesting. They're continuing to battle it out week in and week out, and it's going to be interesting week one.
And a big part of the performance of the offense is going to be behind that offensive line and just watching them go through drill work and watching them in practice. They look like a unit that really works together and is going to be really important to the offense. What is it like playing behind those guys, and what do they bring to the table?
Oh, it's awesome. They bring all the juice. They bring all the energy. Without them, we can't get this thing rolling. So I can't wait to get after it with them this year. I'm definitely excited.
And looking at your performance, obviously you've done a wonderful job. The offense this year is probably going to be looking for some more explosive plays. What have you done in the offseason, just the first few practices of training camp, to kind of enhance what you did last year?
Definitely just improving on my strength, my speed. I really focused on catching the ball at the backfield this year, and definitely have improved on pass pro. So I'm going to take that to the field this year.
And talked about that competition. You guys were kind of chirping back and forth during practice. Is that the identity of your team, kind of a competitive group that gets after one another?
For sure. Ever since I've been here, that's how all practices are. We attack it every day, we compete every day, and it definitely shows on the field every Saturday.
And finally, last year, played Michigan State, did not win that game, only lost to the regular season. As you look back, is that a motivator for you as you head into your first game?
Oh, for sure. We're definitely coming in with a chip on our shoulder. It's going to be an exciting game. We're opening up Friday night in Wildcats Stadium, so we're excited to get after it.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
With Gerry DiNardo after watching the defending West Division champs Northwestern go through a preseason practice. Jerry, the defense was so great last year. They got better offensively. They still were not a dynamic offense, I don't think, by any stretch, but good enough. Ended up ranked 10th in the nation, so they did a lot of things well. The issue here has been quarterback play. When they're good, it's because the quarterback is good. When they are not good, it's because they struggle there. What did you see from the quarterbacks today?
Well, I think they're going to come out of camp pretty much the same way they went in, right? You have Ryan Helinski and you have Hunter Johnson. And I think the reason it's going to stay the same is there doesn't look like there's much difference there, and the third guy looks like he's too far away. So I think the competition might come down to style of offense. Hunter's a little bit of a better runner. And the other thing, Rev, which is unusual this year, is you're opening up with a conference game. So you've got a quarterback battle. You have your top two quarterbacks with two different styles playing Michigan State. And so I would say based on today's practice, I wouldn't be surprised, one, if they played both of them, and two, if the running part of the quarterback game is most important, obviously Hunter will be the starter.
They lost a ton on this offense. In fact, by some measures, they lost more production than any team in the country. So it's not just quarterback, it's running back, it's receiver. What did you see there? Let's start at the running back spot.
Well, Cam Ford ended the season really well. He didn't get a whole lot of work today, but I think we know what he can do. Evan Hull, I thought, had a really good day. He had a great cutback early in practice, and later on he hit his zone play to the right side off the edge. So my guess is, just watching one practice, those two are probably the best running backs will be the best running backs coming out of camp. You know, you mentioned this when we were on the field, more explosive plays, and it really looks like they're making an effort at that. Honestly, I couldn't separate one receiver from another today, but it looks like they're addressing last year's problem, and that was they need more explosive plays. You line up in the spread, you better be explosive.
It'll be fascinating to see what happens with the Wildcats starting, as you said, conference game against Michigan State on a Friday night.
You knew it was coming. Fitz had a defense to be more than proud of in 2020. Cats ranking among the top 10 in all of FBS football in points per game and yards per play allowed. On top of that, Northwestern's pass defense efficiency was #1 in the nation. So how do you back that up? Howard Griffith and Joshua Perry weigh that very same question.
Very lively, very spirited practice that we just saw. What are your impressions?
One of the things that I thought that really jumped out at me was the offense and defense taking the football away. The defense made a concerted effort to, after the ball was caught by the offense, that they were going to punch it out and make a play. But offense also was able to come up with those one of those types of plays. So it really tells me that they're dialed in on making sure they protect the ball, and if they give it up, they want to go out and try to punch it to get the ball back to their team.
I think it's a mark of a well-coached team. I mean, you're going after the ball, which means that you're thinking about more than just a scheme on the field. When you're just thinking about where to line up and where you need to be, you can't do that. And the same thing with the offense. If you turn the ball over, the defensive players don't work on ball security, so you can get it back. One of the things that stands out in my mind was just the way that these players were getting after each other during practice. And you talk to Fitz about it, and he talks about this competitive edge and this spirit that he wants about his team. And it was absolutely there.
Yeah, it was absolutely there. And the other area that I really like was the secondary. There are a lot of veterans out back there that really can go get the football. Cam Mitchell was a guy that really stood out to me today. So I'm anxious to see this team, particularly the secondary. I think they're going to have some work and some challenges up front defensively, but I think they're going to work through them as they always do.
Well, and to your point, you talk about having an experienced secondary. There are going to be a lot of young guys or new guys who are going to be playing on that defense, so they definitely need to have something solidified. And having that in the back end, especially the way they were able to take the ball away last year, is going to benefit them.